In 2018, the Jubilee Year of our parish, its 75th, we began a project to put stained glass windows in this level of the church. The plan was to have images from St. Philip's life in the Scriptures on this east side and depictions about St. Philip the Apostle Church and how we live out the mission that Jesus gave to Philip and the promise he made to him, saying, "Philip, you will do the works I do and even greater works." The life of St. Philip, the life of St. Philip the Apostle, in other words, our life depicted on windows on this side. And then we experienced a fire in the parish and we needed to put that on hold. And now that the building has been rebuilt, we're able to return to our Jubilee celebration intention, which is to beautify our church and add yet another dimension of our spiritual development, which is possible through contemplation of the beauty of stained glass and our story depicted in art. And what you see here, which begins to represent our Lenten journey this year, is a photo of the hand of Christ from the first window, which will be here by the piano, which is the call of St. Philip, Jesus reaching his hand out to Philip, Philip reaching his hand to Christ, and you see the hand extended there. You also see another hand, and that is the hand of the artist who created the window, and he's actually working on it there with an artist's cloth. And Father Matt and I went to Indianapolis a few weeks ago to see the artist working on our windows, which have been designed and are now being created. And this is a photograph from what we saw. God called this artist, Brad Butler, and gave him talents and invited him to use those talents on his life's journey, which you see him doing there. Brad, in working on our windows, is being love in action, taking God's love, God's talents, God's gifts, acting upon them, and soon, in June, we will have the physical representation of his call, of his journey, of his discipleship, of what he creates for us, which will help us to hear Christ's call through the story, to follow more faithfully on the journey, and to be love in action as well. One hand here touches the other, and touch is the way that God gives us to communicate and to be together. Hopefully these windows will touch our minds and our hearts and our community to worship more fully. On all seasons, such as Lent, we have a spiritual program, and so this is ours this year. We'll be looking at the dimensions of our call as a disciple, how Christ touches us on our journey, and how we're being invited to touch one another through acts of love and through service. So if you take home a bulletin, and we've kind of run out of them, so we have one of the pages in the bulletin printed for you. We're recommending, I know a lot of people go on a diet during Lent, let's do something for Jesus and lose some weight, but rather than do a penance of giving up, you could do that, but in addition, we're inviting people to do some love in action or acts in love that have to do with how we, that being our symbol, touch other people and therefore allow God to touch other people through us. And a very simple way that we do that, which is one of the acts of love that we're recommending for Lent, is through praying for other people. We remember them, we pray for them, we fold our hands, touch together to pray for those in need, those who may need encouragement. So an increase in our daily prayer. Also, hospitality. Very simple, we forget about that, but we may be the only smile someone receives someday. When we say hello and how are you and goodbye, when we look at someone in the eye, when we shake hands with them, we are using God's Spirit, God's gifts, and God's talents to touch others, to reach out our hand as we see here. So we're going to look at hospitality and graciousness. Graciousness to say please and thank you and you're welcome. I know it doesn't happen in our parish, but I have heard rumors that in other places, family members say, would you give me the book, please. Thank you very much. They might say, give me the book. It's hard to believe. Right at our own state, it can happen, okay? So the graciousness of please, thank you, yes, you're welcome. To remember that in our interrelationship with each other is the touch of God. You know, when we see a gracious and hospitable person, what do we say? They touched me. We want to be those people in the name of Christ that touch other people through our prayer, through our hospitality, through our graciousness. And another component, possibility, a choice, stewardship. How am I responsible for my little part of the earth? How am I contributing to the beauty, the truth, and goodness of my environment? What do I have to contribute to it, to this moment, to this situation, to this person? So being a steward, being responsible for the welfare of others is one of those acts of love we're recommending. And with that goes recycling. Very simple, to be more attentive to our interaction with our world. And the last is perhaps the most challenging, and that is we're all peace lovers, right? We sang Dona Nobis Pacem on the way in. Yes, Lord, I want some peace. That's wonderful. We're also called to be peacemakers, to pray, to bring peace to our relationships, to our church, to our community, and to our world. And how do we do that? With every word and deed, as we touch others, we bring God's presence as love and action to others. So I introduce our Lenten theme to you. We'll be following it right through Easter. I invite you to come on Sunday and worship with us in the Eucharist. Hear these themes develop. We'll eventually be seeing our first window there, a depiction of it in its fullness as the weeks go on, so that we can examine more closely our call, our journey, and our mission to be love in action. Journey with us, take a bulletin. If you can't come sometime, Father Matt's going to do some YouTube things. We have the bulletin, we have the website. Follow us, pray with us, and we can be sure of this. We will hear more closely the Lord's call on our journey and experience and be able to share our lives as love in action. In a moment, I promise you that, you will be blessed with the ashes. You'll be touched with the ashes. And the ashes leave a mark. Every time we interact with each other, we leave a mark on each other. We make an impression. We give a little bit of the God that lives in us to other people. So as you're blessed today with the ashes, we'll be reminding you of what this Lent in our Christian life is about. We will be saying, be love in action. Invite you to join with us in that. Every fingertip, exactly where one finger touches the other or we touch someone else, has over 100 senses that can be detected and described by a person in experimentation. For the rest of this day, there'll be also more than 100 ways we'll touch each other in hospitality, in graciousness, in stewardship, as peacemakers. As we touch you, may God enable all of us to be more attentive to the call, more awake on the journey, and more able to be love in action through the touch of our acts in love.